Hi, morning guys. Welcome to episode 59 of the Knitting Expat Podcast. Today is Wednesday, 27th of April, 2016. Welcome, my name is Mina and I'm coming to you from my home in Bahrain, where I live with my husband and our 2 cats. So if you're new, thank you so much for checking me out and giving me a go. And if you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate it. And for those of you who have come back, I'll give you one guess as to who just wandered into the room. Just pull my chair out so you can hop onto my lap if he wants to. Come on, you want to come say hi to everybody? You can. Good. Once we picked up, he's very lazy sometimes, this one. And this is Hugo. For those of you who haven't met him before, this is one of my 2 cats. For those of you who have, well, this has become like a weekly occurrence. That face. I love squishing that face. He may or may not decide to stay. Right, so places where you can find me. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry, and I'll just pop up the names on the page, hopefully, if I remember to do that. And they'll be linked down below in the description box on YouTube. Go on, Hugo, look up. We want to see your pretty face. Look at that face. Anyway, thank you so much for checking me out today. I really appreciate it. And like I said, there are show notes on the blog, which is knittingexpat.wordpress.com. Oh, why do I always end up with a cat butt in my face? Hugo, that's not for you. Sorry, he's very distracting, as you can see. There's show notes on the blog and link to there's a Ravelry group, which is the Knitting Expat Podcast. Like I said, links to everything are down below in the description box on YouTube. If you're watching somewhere else, then the links will be nearby, wherever you're watching as well. You're ruining my intro. Okay, come sit on my lap. That's good. Oh, no, changed his mind. Okay, I wanted to say thank you to everyone who commented on the episode last week about their thoughts on the setup and uploading separate videos and stuff, etc. I think for now I'm going to stick to this setup, which was my original arrangement. You can still see my yarny goodness behind me, which is fine. And the lighting seems to be better here. There I was too close to the window and it was a little bit, you keep changing your mind. It was a little bit too blown out, and I agree with the people who said that. As to uploading separate videos and stuff, I think what I'm going to do is I will upload separate tutorial type videos separately. Like the blocking video, for example, that I included last week. I included it in the podcast because it was relevant to what I was talking about. I was talking about blocking my shawl, which I now realise I got 2 shawls doubled up on those hooks and I just hadn't moved them. So the one on top is my Budding Bluebells shawl, which is a pattern that'll be released very soon. And more about that later. But other videos, like videos of the boys and my out and about stuff, I think I'm going to leave those in the podcast only. I'm not going to upload those separately, at least not yet. Maybe in the future, if I do a segment or something that's a little bit longer, I might consider doing that as a separate video as well. I think that pretty much covers my thoughts on that for now. Derek's coming as well. Surprise, surprise, he's actually awake this morning. I think I fed him a little bit later than usual, so he hasn't quite gone into his food coma yet. We'll see if he wanders over and if I can grab him. He's a bit camera shy. I've had a few people comment thinking that, Hugo, there he is, and you can see him in the background there. Commenting saying that, Hugo's obviously my favourite, or this, that, and the other, and I'm just like, well, no, it's just Hugo's less camera shy than Derek. Derek's usually asleep when I record, so he's rarely ever around. Oh, there you are. So we can get him to come over. It's like he knows I'm podcasting and to stay away. But anyway, he's just gone off now. So he's more camera shy than Derek, so he doesn't really, than Hugo. So Derek's not really on the podcast very often, but and this little guy is just generally more curious than he is. Anyway, so on that note, we'll move on. We have a coupon code offered by the very lovely Kelsey of Primrose Yarn Company. She has offered viewers of the podcast a 20% discount off your shopping cart by using the code Expat Knits. That's all capitals, Expat Knits. And if I remember, I'll put it up on the screen. I think I forgot to do that last week. And it will be linked in the show notes and episode thread on Ravelry as well. And that is valid until the 17th of May. So you still have over 2 weeks left to go and use that, to make sure you do. I believe she is at a event or show vending something this weekend, so her shop might be closed for a couple of days, but it is valid until the 17th of May, so make sure you go and check it out. And then the only other admin type thing I had to say is that I finally uploaded the closing of the gap in the corner of a heel video tutorial to YouTube yesterday. I mean, actually I'd uploaded it last week, I just hadn't clicked publish yet, and I kept forgetting to do it, and I realised now that I actually forgot to even announce it on Instagram. So for those of you who really got and found it, well done, and thank you for watching it. And yeah, for everyone else, it is up there now, it is on YouTube, and yeah. And I never really say this, but yeah, if you want to be notified whenever I've uploaded a new video or something, if you just click subscribe on the YouTube channel, then you can be kept up to date. It will just pop up in your feed. I don't really say that very often because I assume if you're watching and if you're a returning viewer, you probably have subscribed and you don't really need me to tell you to do that. But just in case, I thought I'd put it out there. So yeah, we'll move on. Oh, I think Hugo's had enough. He's off. Like I said, I fed them a little bit later than usual this morning, so because I overslept. But yeah, so they're still having their breakfast. Right, so forecast format for this week, as usual, I'll be doing a little chat about a couple of podcasts, or just one podcast this week that I've been watching, a new one. Talk about finished objects, works in progress, acquisitions, which there are quite a lot of this week. I had a bumper mail week, knit-alongs and giveaways, and then I'm going to relocate to a different part of the house to hang out with another little feline friend. I don't know if you heard that, but Derek just had the biggest sneeze. I want to relocate to another part of the house to hang out with a different feline friend, like I said, and I'll do the Q&As, and my section on Bahrain / Middle East life, and a bit of a weekend review as well. So the non-nitty stuff comes at the end of the episode. I've realised a lot of people have expressed... what I've always tried to do is I generally try to keep the admin stuff at the beginning to a minimum and do the nitty stuff at the beginning part of my podcast, and then keep the non-knitting stuff like questions and weeks in review, Middle East life, that sort of thing, to the latter half of the episode. That way people who aren't really interested in that sort of stuff don't have to sit through it. And I realise I've been babbling on for about 8 minutes, but hopefully I can cut it down a little bit because of the Hugo interruptions, but we will see. So first up, podcasts. I'm still trying to keep on top of all the podcasts that I watched this week. Perry and I have been watching some TV programs that we used to watch, and we're finally catching up on some. And so that's taken up some of my podcast watching time. And there are a couple of TV series that Perry's watched that I have started watching, but I haven't caught up to where he's at yet. So I'm trying to catch up on those TV shows, so then we can carry on watching them together. And this week while he's away, I'm trying to catch up on some of those as well, so that's eating into my podcast time as well. So I haven't really had a chance to catch up on too much. I'm trying to keep on top of the ones I do watch, and I've checked out one new one, which is the My Two Tips podcast with Elise. She's so lovely. I've chatted with her a couple of times on Instagram, and she's very sweet, and I love her podcast. She's got this real energy about her, which is really great. So if you haven't checked her out, please do. Her podcast episodes don't seem to be that long either, so that's always great. I always think it's good to have a good mix of podcast durations, because sometimes you only have time for half an hour or something, and other times you have a bit more time, so you can sit there for an hour and a half, 2 hours. And there's always the option of like watching a podcast in 2 or 3 segments. Like you don't have to watch it all in one go. But having said that, I almost always watch my podcasts at 1.5 speed. Always on YouTube. I would never be able to keep on top of anything otherwise. Like even as it is, it's quite difficult for me to keep up with that at that speed even as well. So yeah, my tip, if you're struggling to keep on top of podcasts, 1.5 speed it is. So let's move on to finished objects. First up, I have the first thing I finished, which I finished. It was almost finished before I even finished uploading last week's episode. I had a bit of a YouTube issue. It wasn't anything bad, like it didn't crash on me or anything dramatic like that, but it was a bit of a pain. And it's just, I think it was just slow. It was just slow for some reason. And I'm really hoping this week it won't be a problem. I have a bad feeling it will be. But I've had a pretty good run of it with YouTube this year so far, and so I can't really complain a couple of times if it's a bit annoying. So my first finished object is this lovely shawl. And this is the Hilltop shawl that I showed you last week by Helen Stewart. It was knit on 4mm needles, and I used the Cumbria fingering yarn, which was given to us as part of our goodie bags when we were at the Curious Handmade Country House retreat. And the shawl was designed by Helen for the retreat and has now since been released. I think Helen is running a knit along in her group. I'm not entirely sure if that's still running or not. But as you can see, it's blowing out. There we go, that shows the colours better that way. So as you can see, there's a blue and a green. The blue is Derwent Water, and the green is Grizzledale Forest, I believe. I've already stuck the label into my book, but it's a mixture of Masham wool, I think there was merino in there, and some mohair. So it's really lovely. It was a very plump fingering. It's 300 meters and 100 grams, so it's almost a sport weight, really. Well, I'd consider that a sport weight personally, but it's labelled as a fingering. But yeah, it's a really lovely shawl. It's a little bit scratchy. If you're very sensitive to wools and stuff, then this probably isn't the wool for you, because it's not the softest thing, but it's definitely nice to wear. It's not too scratchy. I think I'd be fine with it. It's nice and warm, and with the mohair, if you wanted to, these could make really nice socks. If you're looking for yarn, non-superwash yarn, because this is not superwash, non-superwash yarn to use for socks, you could check out the Cumbria yarn, because mohair acts in place of the nylon in terms of strengthening the yarn. And from what I've read, and when I did some research into this a while ago, when someone asked a question about it on the podcast a few months ago, and it seems that mohair is one of the natural strengtheners. Mohair and silk. If you've got a non-superwash yarn that has either mohair or silk in it, that acts in place of nylon and works to, like I said, strengthen the yarn. So that works. Those would work. Those types of yarns would work really well for socks if you are looking for a non-superwash sock yarn. That's a little tip for you guys out there. You are interested in that sort of thing. So like I said, the pattern is designed by Helen, who is Curious Handmade. That's the Curious Handmade podcast. And yeah, I'm really liking how this looks, and I love the little picot edge. Picot edges, bind-offs, are always a little pain, but totally worth the effort. My shawl, I don't know if mine's actually turned out smaller than hers or not, because I haven't measured it, but I didn't use as much yarn as I thought I was going to use. I didn't think I was going to have much left over from the two skeins, but I had almost 50 grams left over combined. So yeah, Helen's designed this as a single colour shawl. So the idea was to have one solid colour all the way through. But if you watched my podcast episode last week, you'll have heard the cycle of yarns that I went through, colours that I went through, and when I finally ended up with this combo. So what I ended up doing was, since I ended up with two colours, I sort of striped it. So I did a solid section in blue, then I did all the lace sections in the green, and I did every alternate solid section in blue, and then the two in between ones I striped them with the blue and green, and that gave me an almost equal, well, I still used more of the blue, but it used up more of the green that way. And then I did, the only modification I did was I added one garter ridge at the end before doing the picot bind off in the green. That way it just made it cleaner. But this pattern is great. Also, if you happen to be knitting it and you lose track and you knit more garter rows or less garter rows when you start the lace, doing the lace sections, it really doesn't matter. As long as you've done your increases correctly at either end, you can knit more or less rows of the lace or the garter section, and it won't mess up the pattern, which is really interesting, a really good way of doing it. And it's easy to size up on this one as well once you get going, if you wanted to. I probably could have added a few more garter rows, or I could have done an extra couple of rows of lace in each section to stretch out and use more yarn, but I wasn't sure how much it was going to take. All in all, pretty happy with how this turned out, and it was the perfect... Hugo's playing with my blocking wires again in the background. I'm sorry if that's distracting. You can never do any, you can't really do any damage to them. You can't get them down or anything. It keeps them distracted, so it's fine. What was I saying? This was the perfect project to cast on, like I talked about last week. I just needed something, just a simple, not entirely mindless knit that wasn't complicated and was just going to let me switch off for a bit. And it was just a palette cleanser, I think is probably the best way to describe it. It was just a very satisfying quick knit for me. My second finished object, I'm going chronologically here, are my last pair of design socks for the first collection that's coming out soon. And this is knit out of the By Knits yarn on her Luna base. My friend Josie dyes this yarn, and this is in the Wait For Me colourway, which is very beautiful tonal blue with little pops of purple in it as well, which is really beautiful. And if you've watched my Closing the Gap heel tutorial, these are the socks that I showed it on, so you've got a little glimpse of the pattern on the front there in that video. But this is what the yarn looks like. It's really beautiful, sort of blues. I'm not sure how well the camera's picking this up. It's a really lovely tonal blue with little pops of sort of purple running through it as well. It's quite subtle, but it's really lovely, and I love the tonality of that yarn. Just looks really pretty. And it's quite evenly dyed as well, so there's no real difference in the two halves of the skein, which is lovely. So yeah, that was another pair of socks. I need to do an updated count on how many socks I've knit so far this year. I've lost track. It's definitely over 50 now, but I just can't remember where I'm at. And yeah, nothing super different about these socks. Typical 64 stitches on US size 1s, 2.25 millimeters. Let's see, that's about it. Oh, and the base, I didn't say, it's 100% superwash merino. Now, I have no issues knitting socks out of 100% superwash merino, clearly. I think it's perfectly fine. I don't wear my socks all that often anyway because of where I live, and the season for wearing socks here is relatively short, so I only really ever wear my socks when I travel. So in the grand scheme of things, it's quite a small amount of time in the year that I wear them. But and I wouldn't gift 100% merino socks to someone unless they were going to be house socks, just because I don't want them to have to worry about wearing a hole in them. But for myself, it's fine. I don't mind. And my last finished object for the week is a big one. It's one that last week was just a little bit of a cuff, is now a finished sweater. It's my brownstone. Oh god, it's washing out the camera totally. Oh jeez. The camera's not liking this colour. Okay, so this is my brownstone. That it's patterned by Brooklyn Tweed. I think it's actually designed by Jared Flood. It's a men's jumper, and yeah, I really love it. I knit the size 43.5 inch, and the yarn was some mystery yarn that I picked up at I Knit Fandango last year, and yeah, I love it. I love how it's turned out. It's a really sort of tonal purple plum. Oh geez, there we go. That's a bit. There we go. That's a bit better. That's the right colour there. Yeah, and it keeps changing and it looks different in whatever light you're looking at it, but it's really beautiful and I love it. And there's not a lot of pooling. There's not a lot of drastic colour changes. When I did try and alternate skeins about an inch or so before changing skeins. That seemed to work fine, blending it in. I'd had 2 skeins that were really dark, a lot darker than the others. So I used those at the bottom ribbing, and they sort of gradiated out to the lighter skeins, which was fine, totally fine. I had just the right amount of yardage according to the pattern for this size. I ended up with loads left over. I had over 200 meters left over at the end of it. I was like, okay, that was a slight overestimation on the pattern's part, but that's quite a bit of an overestimation on how much yarn you're going to need for a sweater. Weight-wise, in the pattern, this jumper or sweater was knit out of Brooklyn Tweed Shelter, which is a worsted spun. I remember, is it worsted? No, woolen spun yarn. So it's a lot spongier and it's a lot lighter. So the pattern called for 500 grams of Brooklyn Tweed Shelter. I actually use 560 grams for this jumper. But I don't ever, when I'm looking at patterns, I don't ever pick out my yarn or the quantity of yarn that I'm using based on the weight, grams. I do it based on the yardage required rather than the weight in grams, because different yarns, depending on the fiber content and how it was spun, can weigh differently for the same, can have a different actual weight for different, for the same sort of thickness of yarn. So a worsted weight that is spun, a worsted weight yarn that is spun woolen style can have more yards per gram, yards per gram than the worsted weight yarn that's spun worsted style, and because that could potentially be a heavier yarn weight-wise. I hope that makes some sense. I'm not a spinner. This is just from my minimal spinning knowledge and yarn knowledge that I've picked up from watching other podcasts and just from personal experience. So that's just my thoughts on the matter. The only other thing I did a couple of things. I pretty much followed the pattern exactly. This was the first time I knit a garment bottom up. It fits exactly how I want it. I wanted it to be nice and slouchy, and I will wear it probably in next week's podcast. I'll show it worn just because it's not been blocked yet. Because I finished it yesterday. I wouldn't have had time. It wouldn't have dried in time for me to wear it today and show you blocked. So I haven't blocked it yet. That will happen later today. And like I said, I followed the pattern pretty much exactly as it was written. I didn't really change much at all. It was my first time knitting bottom up, so I wanted to see how it's going to turn out. It was really fun. Really, really fun. With the sleeves, I posted on Instagram and I was expressing a bit of concern about the size of the sleeves and how long they were and if they were going to be long enough. And most people said to try and block them, and I was intending on blocking the sleeves. I just never did it. But so what I'm going to do, what I did do was go back and I just added 1.5 inches to the length, roughly 1.5 inches. Maybe it was a bit less than that. But basically I was like, well, if it's too long, I can roll it up. But if it's too short, then I'm going to kick myself for not having done it. So I waited until I finished knitting the body up to the point where you were then going to join the sleeves. Saw how much yarn I had left, and I was like, okay, I'm definitely going to have more than enough. So I added on, like I said, a little bit to the sleeves, then joined in the round, knit up for the rest of the body, and then I did the shawl collar, and I did kind of mess up on the shawl collar a little bit. I messed up on the short rows. I misread the pattern, and I was doing the short rows too close together initially for the first little bit. So you can see, I don't know how well this is going to pick up. You can see how sort of like steep that line is. That's just because I wasn't doing the short rows completely correctly initially. I did figure it out relatively, I think maybe 5 sets of short rows in. But I was lazy and I don't like ripping out my work. I really don't. And it was quite late at night when I'd started this. I really wasn't in the mood to rip out and start the collar again. So I just went back to doing it the right way, and I figured it'll be fine when I'm wearing it. No one's going to notice. And thankfully, yes, when I wear it, it looks fine. And I think once it's blocked, it will sit better as well, and it won't be obvious at all, and it's fine. The only thing I haven't done is the pattern calls for toggles and like a toggle closure across the front here. Sorry, see if I can find a picture to show you. I'll show it. That's the back. There's not a single picture of the toggle. Okay. You can sort of see it here. It's got the toggles there at the front. And I think maybe if I was knitting this for Perry or for my dad or for someone else, for an actual guy rather than for myself, I probably would have put the toggles on. But I actually really like how the collar sits without the toggles. And I quite like it to be a little bit more open, because the reason I really don't wear jumpers that often, or sweaters, is because I can't open them, and I prefer the cardigans because it lets me like adjust for body temperature and stuff. But yeah, so I really like having that be a little bit more open. So like I said, I'm going to block it this week. It's going to bleed like crazy. This yarn bleeds like nobody's business. I don't think it's been heat set. It doesn't feel like the dye's been set. My hands are so, like, can't really tell. It's mostly washed out now, but you can see on my thumb here a little bit better. It's just completely stained my hands. My fingernails, really. It's stained my fingernails purple and blue. Well, not blue. Yeah, purple. Yeah. It's not a heat set at all. Well, if it has been, not very well. Right. I'll be back in a second with works in progress. All right, back now, and let's move on to works in progress. First work in progress I have to show you is in this cute little project bag that I received in a swap. And yeah, in here are a pair of socks. And the yarn is Nomadic Yarns in the Brit Sock base, which is 80% superwash BFL, 20% nylon, and this is in the Get Lucky colorway. Really, really fun greens and golds and colours like that. And I am, of course, knitting them 2 at a time on magic loop. Get the cord out the way. These are on my high sharps, my absolute favourite sock knitting needles. I really like the zings. I was rather surprised by how much I like them, but I have to say it's just I don't know, it just feels really natural to knit with the high sharps for me. Whenever I'm knitting socks on other needles, they feel fine at the time, and then I go back to knitting on the highs and it's just like, oh, this is how it's supposed to be. So that's how I feel about them. Anyway, it always feels like going home, if that makes any sense whatsoever. It's a very strange way to describe it. But so these are the socks. So where I'm at now, I think I've done I did 20 rows in the cuff, and then I think I did about 82 rows in the leg, because I wanted to be halfway through a stripe when I start the heel. I have this fun purple, which will be a really good contrast for the heels, because purple goes really well with yellow and golden colours, as well as with green. So I actually think this will work pretty well for the contrast heel and toe. So just heels, I'm not going to do toes, I don't think. And I had quite a few people ask how I get my stripes to line up, and I've talked about this before on the podcast, and I'm pretty sure I talk about this in the Q&A video that I uploaded. That is a separate video for my channel, and it's linked in the Q&A thread, or questions and suggestions thread, in my group as well. At the very top you'll see it. If you want to check that out, I do talk about that in there. But I'm thinking next time I cast on a pair of self-striping socks, I'm gonna do a little video on how to get them to line up, get them to match up. So that's progress on these so far. These have been waiting for a heel since Saturday. I just haven't had a chance to sit down and do them. I've been working on other things. The jumper has been taking a lot of time this week. Oh, I completely forgot to mention, I knit that jumper in like 8 days. It was an 8-day sweater, and there were 2 days, well, almost 2 full days that I didn't work on it at all. So it was a very quick knit, very, very quick for me. I really enjoyed it. Definitely something I would probably consider knitting again, either for my dad or my brother or Perry or whoever wants one. Definitely an enjoyable knit. I'll be showing it to my dad next time I go back, and if he likes it, I might make him one. So yeah, what was I going to say? There was something else on that note. Socks, heels, jumper, 8 days. I don't think there was anything else. Oh, that was it. I did have one other work in progress that I have a couple more to show you, but I did have something else I was working on, which was a design project. And this is the first time I really had this happen. Usually when I'm designing, things tend to work out as I work through the design, if that makes sense. Like, I'll have an idea of what I'm doing, and sometimes if the initial idea is not panning out exactly how I thought it would, I just sort of fix it on the go, if that makes sense. I don't really I've never had to rip out a project entirely. I'll put it out there. In terms of a design project, I've never ripped out entirely. I rarely frog back. I've never frogged a project entirely. This last week I did. I basically knit a whole skein in a day. It was actually sport weight yarn. The design's going to be in fingering weight. I didn't realise until after I'd started that it was actually a sport weight. But I knit through the full skein in a day, and then I realised it wasn't going to work. I pulled the needles out. I put it on scrap yarn to try and see how big it was going to be and if it was the shape I wanted. And it wasn't the right shape. It wasn't how I wanted it to look. So I ripped it out, skeined it up, and I realised it's just not going to work in that yarn. It's just not right for the design I have in mind. So I'm going to use different yarn for the design now and use that yarn for something else. So that was a little bit of a knitting setback. I know a lot of people don't necessarily talk about the things that go wrong with their knitting, but I thought that was important to share. And I wanted to put that out there. It happens all the time. Next up, in this really fun project bag that was made for me by the lovely Sarah of the Reluctant Sisters podcast. She made me this project bag. But I am using, like I said, I had a lot of leftover yarn from the jumper sweater I knit, the brownstone. You can see the colour a bit better here. And so I just decided to come up with a hat. I'm not following any pattern. This is one of my own sort of designs. I may write this up as a pattern if you guys are interested. So what I did was I did a folded ribbed brim, which I am loving actually how this has turned out. It is super squishy, so soft, so squishy, and it's lovely. I knit for about 5.5 to 6 inches of 2x2 rib. Then I folded it under and knit one stitch and then picked up a stitch from the cast on edge and knit them together all the way around for one round. And then I started a texture pattern on the hat, which is actually one of the texture patterns from one of the socks I'm going to be releasing soon. So this is going to be the matching hat to those socks. So I may release this at the same time as the socks as well. So you'll have the option of a matching hat. So yeah, this is going to be fun. I'm really enjoying it. I still have a bunch of yarn left, and I'm really looking forward to getting to the crown decreases because I want to work the decreases in pattern, so that'll be interesting to figure out as well. And yeah, you can't really see it all that. This colour is like the worst for the camera to pick up. You can sort of see it there. Just get the little sort of texture. I really love it because what I find with hats is, as much as I like how they fit, they're slouchy, my ears get cold in the winter, so I wanted something that was going to be nice and really warm around the ears. So this is going to be nice and thick and squishy around the ears. And yeah, and the rest of the hat's just going to be a fun texture. So, like I said, let me know if you'd be interested in me writing up a pattern for something like this. And I might do that. I just cast this on yesterday, so that was really quick as well. After I finished the jumper, I started this because I just wanted to use all of this yarn and didn't want to have loads left because, like I said, I can't really mix this with other colours because it bleeds so badly. And and my last work in progress, I pulled out my blanket. It's been a while since I worked on this. I think the last time I worked on this was at the beginning of April. And so for me, that feels like forever ago. And yeah, so this is actually, I've done half the blanket. I've decided that I'm going to do what I originally set out to do and just square it off completely. So it's going to be 16 by 20 squares. And so what I've done now is, see, it's here basically. So this was actually my first square. And this whole half going, because you can see the centers are going in different directions here. So the way I'm doing my blanket, I'm trying to figure out the best way to show you this. You know what? I'm just going to sketch it out for you really quickly. I show this in the Q&A video that I did. I'll show you again really quickly here, just because it might make this a little bit more easy to understand. That's what it's going to turn out like. So these lines are all the center decrease lines going out in different directions. So what I've done now is I've got this side done and that side done, and I'm working down. So I've got this half of the blanket done, and I'm going to do this half now. So you can see that here. This going off into that corner, this going off into that corner, and then there's going to be 2 more coming off up here. So I've started adding this corner, this side here. The only thing I should mention is that this half, or this quarter of the blanket from this point down and across, is all yarns that I've used, that I knit last year. So in this corner I have everything that I had leftovers of from yarn that I knit myself last year, I think. Yeah, most of it's all from last year. And this one here is from my very first pair of socks. This one is from my first shawl design. Yeah, so lots of memories in this blanket. So these 3 are the ones that I've added. And these 3 are all minis from the lovely Danny of Little Bobbins. This first one is Felt Fusion. What was the colourway name? I've got all the minis that she's given me. I've pulled them all up. Some of them had colourway names, some not so much. Rainbows and Clouds by Felt Fusion. This one is by Nicole C. Mendes. It's one of her striping yarns. There was no colourway name for it, but I really like how that turned out. And this one is by British Bee Knits. Again, no colourway name for that one, but it's this one and the Felt Fusion one by Sparkly Yarns, which is really fun. And I still have another 7 minis from Danny to add to my blanket. So that'll be really fun. And I'm really finally really glad that I'm getting Danny's minis into my blanket, because she was actually one of the very first people who did a mini swap with me. So that was really fun. And I really want to get those minis into my blanket. Hugo's just staring out the window now. And that pretty much sums up my works in progress for this week. I think, like I've been doing so far this year, is I'm clearing my needles for the end of the month, each month. And then I start every new month with fresh new cast-ons. And I think I'm really liking how that's going, and I'm going to keep that up for as long as I can. So I'm going to finish off the hat, I'm going to finish off the socks, and then whatever time I have left of this month, I'm going to spend knitting on the blanket. And I think that's how I'm going to do it, because I don't tend to knit on my blanket very much during the month, I find, because what happened at the beginning of this month is I knit a lot on the blanket, and I felt like I wasn't getting any progress done on my other projects, and I wasn't getting any, and that's, I didn't have a finished object that first week in April, and I was just like, what is happening to me? And it felt so weird for me not to have that. So, but what I have enjoyed is having 2 or 3 days at the end of the month where I'm not working on any projects, and just having that time to work on the blanket and doing other things. So I think that's how I'm going to do it. The blanket progress is going to be a lot slower that way, but I don't mind. It's enjoyable, and I'm enjoying working on it. I'm actually thinking of starting another blanket in tandem as something else that I can just sort of knit on whenever I feel like it. I have a bunch of Knit Picks palette yarn that I bought last year, just over a year ago now, which I intended to use for colour work, which I might still do, but I have basically a whole rainbow palette of it, and I'm thinking of just doing a simple sort of garter stitch colour block blanket to use up that yarn. I'm not sure what I'm going to use the blanket for, because it is a non-superwash yarn, and it's not the softest, so I'm not really sure if that's the best use for it. I might hold it double and do a felted project with it, potentially. We'll see. I haven't fully decided what I'm going to do with it, but I do want to use up that yarn, and I want to get it out of my stash. It's been sat there for too long, and I realised I'm not going to use it necessarily for what I intended, but I do want to use it for something. So let me know if you have any ideas on something I could use that for. Right, I'm going to take a quick break here. I need to get my acquisitions over here so I can show you for the next segment, and just clear my desk a little bit. So I will be back with you in just a jiffy. All right, back now with acquisitions and just mail in general. Everything that I got this week, most of actually, oh jeez, I'm rubbing my eyeliner everywhere. Good job, Nina. Yeah, pretty much everything I got this week is not stuff that I ordered. There's only one package that I got this week, which is technically 2 packages. I'll explain later. It's something that I ordered. But first up, I got a sweet little package from a viewer who just wanted to send me a little something just because. And it was very sweet of her to do that. She really didn't have to. She sent me a cute little card with a lovely note. Sweet little minis. Cutest little cherry stitch marker, progress keeper, which is just so stinking adorable. Some tea and some really cute hand dyed fabric, which is really, really sweet of her as well. Sort of like handkerchief size. That's really fun. That was quite cute. So thank you so much. I'm not going to mention your name just because I'm not sure if you want to be mentioned or not, but I've already thanked you and just wanted to say thank you again. Yeah, and so the next thing that came in the mail was something I wasn't even expecting. And I went to the mailbox one day just checking to see if any of the packages I was expecting to arrive had arrived. And they hadn't, but what had arrived was this very sweet little package from Eric of Sticks Was Twine. I really wasn't expecting anything. And he very sweetly sent me a little care package-ish of sorts. There was some chocolate in there, which has already gone. Did not last the week. He sent me some Wonderland tea. So this was tea that he picked up when he went to Disney World, I believe it was, in Florida recently. And he picked up like this whole giant box full of tea. He sent me the one with the pomegranate tea, which is so sweet. Thank you so much. I love pomegranates and I love pomegranate tea, so that's perfect. He also sent me this cute little tape measure, which is so handy. I love these little tape measures. And he sent me a 3-pack of these field notes because he knows how much I've been enjoying the one he sent me previously. I've been using this for my design work so far this year, and it's been great. Some notes on the budding bluebell shawl, lots of, I just make lots of notes on weights and repeats and stitch counts and all that sort of stuff as I'm going. So he sent me a 3-pack so I can, because this one's almost full and it's starting to fall apart a little bit from being roughly handled by myself. So thank you so much, Eric. That's going to be very handy. And he had made a joke, I thought it was a joke anyway, on one of my Instagram posts that he was going to send me more notebooks. I didn't really think he was. I thought it was just a joke. And because he hadn't said anything to me afterwards, I wasn't expecting it. So thank you very much. Then the next thing that came in the mail was from the lovely Lisa. And Lisa runs a group on Ravelry. You may have heard of it. A few other podcasters have mentioned it recently, called Sock Yarn Swappers or Swapless, and they do swapless swaps for people who are working on blankets or other projects involving mini skates. And she got in touch with me several months ago now, asking if I'd be interested in doing a trade for some project bags in exchange to take part in a couple of these swapless swaps. So that's what we did. I sent her a couple of project bags and I signed up for a couple of the swaps in exchange. And so what Lisa does is she places a large order with a yarn dyer, an indie dyer, for about, depending on if it's a 5-gram or 10-gram mini skein swap, for the appropriate number of skeins of yarn. So for 5-gram minis, I think it's 20 skeins because you get 20 5-gram minis out of every skein of yarn. And then the dyer will dye the yarn, send the yarn to Lisa, and Lisa divides the yarn up into 5-gram mini skeins. And then she packages them up and sends them out to everybody who took part in that swap. So what you do is you pay the money to take part and you get the yarn in exchange. And it works out to be the equivalent of buying a single skein of yarn, or maybe a little bit more because it takes Lisa quite a bit of time and effort to do that. And I think for international, it's $40 to take part in the 5-gram mini swaps, where you get 20 minis, but you do get 20 minis out of it, and they're beautiful, beautiful colours. I think this one's probably my favourite. I'm sure you're not surprised at all by that one. I also really like this one. This one reminds me of the Hedgehog Fibers typewriter. And this one's quite fun. It's not one I would have normally picked out. I think this one is called High Top. It would be good if I told you who the dyer was. The dyer is dyed in the wool. And so you get a little card from this dyer anyway, you get a little card with all the names of the yarns. And I had quite a bit of fun sitting here trying to figure out which was which and narrowing it down. This one's really nice as well, like that. But yeah, I'm not going to sit here and show you all of them, but they are really fun. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do with these. I'm not sure if these are going to go into my blanket or if I want to do like Franken socks, or some of these might go into other swaps. We will see. I haven't fully figured it out, but it's really fun. And also got a little stitch marker from Dyed in the Wool. The logo on it. I don't know if you can see that very well. It's focusing or not. Anyway, you get the idea. Very cute. And yeah, love the swap idea. If you are interested, I have another one that's coming next month, I think, or next month or so. So I can't actually remember who the other dyer was. It's been a while now since I signed up. So if you are interested in that, make sure you go and check out I think it's called Sock Yarn Swappers is the name of the group. I'll link it in the show notes and the episode thread as well. And yeah, you can sign up to any of the swaps that are available. I think at the moment she's got some going for like mustache and a couple of other dyes as well, which is really fun. Speaking of mustache, my next acquisition is from her. And this was, she did a pre-order sale for some Star Wars inspired sock yarn, like R2-D2 and C3PO. And I think now she's done Rey and BB-8 as well. But I signed up and I thought I had ordered the companion set, which is like a 50-gram skein of R2-D2 and 50-gram skein of C3PO. That's what I thought I'd ordered. Turns out a bit of confusion, and I'm not really sure. I don't think it's really either of our faults. I think it was just a bit of a mistake on both sides. Anyway, doesn't matter. I ended up with a full skein of the R2-D2, and this was in her, what she calls her OCD skeins, which is two perfectly matching half skeins twisted together. In the R2-D2 colorway, which was really lovely. But I thought I'd ordered the companion set. Anyway, got in touch with Stacey. She was very sweet. Got back to me very quickly, actually, a lot quicker than I'd expected, considering the time difference. And she was very good, and she promptly stuck a half skein of C3PO into the mail for me as to kind of fix it up. Anyway, it was all fine. So I got a half skein of the C3PO, which is really fun colours, and a full skein of the R2-D2. So what I'm going to do is I will do a half and half, and then I'll have a half skein left over, which may end up being a prize for a future knit along. And I may put a coordinating sort of larger mini to go with it for you to use for heel, toes and cuffs, and that way you can use just 50 grams to get a full pair of socks out of it, potentially. So that's what I will probably do, and I'm not sure what colour I'm going to use for contrasting heels and toes. Probably maybe a red or a grey or something, I'm not sure. But so yeah, stay tuned for that. I think that's probably what I will do. I will knit a pair of socks for myself, and then I'll take one of the two half skeins of the R2-D2, and I'll pair that with the contrasting yarn to use for heels, toes and cuffs, so you can get a full pair of socks out of it that way. I think that will be quite fun. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to that, because this is my first mustache yarn. I've never knit with her yarn before. I've never had an opportunity to get her yarn before. Her yarn sells out so quickly when it goes up on her website. She doesn't really announce when she's got stuff going into her site now anyway. So I got really lucky that I even caught the pre-order. And yeah, really happy with that. And that's really the only thing I've bought for myself since getting back from London. And I have bought one other thing, but it's not for me. It's yarn for my sister-in-law's wedding shawl that I'll be knitting soon, and that should be coming sometime soon. So that's the only other thing I've bought, but it's not yarn to make something for myself. It's specifically for someone else, so I think that's okay. Right, so next up, I have a lovely package that came from Ellie of FO and Dye. She and I did a bit of a swap last year now, I think it was. Yeah, last year. And it just There were a few other things that she said she'd wanted to send but didn't have everything then to send it, so she sent it later. And she sent me a lovely card. I love the card. I love the colour on the card. And it came, her stuff comes in a purple mailer, and as soon as I saw it was purple, I knew it was Ellie's package because, like me, she loves purple, and her packages have always come in a purple mailer. She sent me this cute little notebook, which is a really handy size for just sticking in my purse. She sent me this lovely skein of Fibre Space Scrumptious 4-ply Sport. It's silk merino blend, and the colour is Flying Saucer. It's 365 meters there and 100 grams. Really, really soft, lovely yarn. I'm not sure what this will be yet. Don't want that to fall out. But thank you so much for that, Ellie. She sent me some lovely minis, including, I think this is one of her hand-dyed yarns, which is really fun. So that'll be fun to add to my blanket. And she also sent me these really beautiful stitch markers. They're quite weighty as well, which I like. They're these little ring ones, little dangly bead on the end, and they're sort of like half green, half red, semi-translucent sort of beads. And she said in her note, and she's totally right, they remind me of the little sour apple candies that we used to have, sweets that we used to have as kids. I think M&S used to sell them. But yeah, I really like them, and she sent me a little set of those, which was really fun. And you can never have too many stitch markers. You always need stitch markers. So yeah, thank you so much for that, Ellie. That was really sweet. You really didn't have to do that. That was really, really kind. Then the next, I've got 2 more packages to show you, so I'll try and be quick. But just to put it out there, I don't understand how the postal system works. I never have. I don't think I ever will. It is so confusing and it's so strange. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So the next 2 packages I have to show you, both came from the US. Both were sent with the same kind of postal, like postage option. Like one wasn't like first class and the other regular. They were both sent the same way. Different parts of the US, albeit granted, but the US nonetheless. One was sent on the 6th of April, and the other one was sent on the 18th of April. They both got here on the same day. Go figure. Anyway, so the first one came from Sadie, who has the shop, online shop. Mrs. Nightmare is her yarn shop. Just get everything out of the box. Yep. She got in touch with me. She wanted to send me a skein of yarn to try out of her yarn, and also a skein for a giveaway. So I thought, great, love to do that. Thank you so much. She put a few things together. She let me pick from her yarns which one I wanted, which one for the giveaway. I couldn't decide between 2 colorways, so she sent me both, and she said, use one for the giveaway and one for yourself. I said that sounds perfect. And she also sent me a few other little things. She sent me some teas and sweets and a couple of her stickers. So that's upside down. So that's her logo. It's a little bat, which is really cute. And she says Nightmare. She sent me a little mini skein. So this is, oh no, this is just her card. And I love it. On the back she says she's a dyer, knitter. She's a podcaster as well. Podcaster and crazy cat lady in training. So that's her information on the back. I will have her shop linked in the show notes if I remember. Hopefully I will. I'm not always great at that. But like I said last week, I always have a list of all the shops, online shops that I've used their names in the episode thread on Ravelry. So usually you should be able to just copy and paste the name into Google and it should come up. If you do have trouble with that, let me know and I will find the link for you if I haven't linked it. I really like that. It's really fun sort of spring colours. So that's going into the blanket. So the yarn she sent me, both are on her Batty sock base, which is 80/20 superwash merino nylon and 400 yards and 100 grams. She sent me these 2 beautiful skeins of yarn. So this one is Electric Funeral and this one is Sunset on the Sound, which are beautiful. Both are really stunning colours, both within sort of like the sort of colour range that I would pick. This is a very lovely sort of muted purples and sort of golden colours and just really beautiful subtlety in those colours. I really love it and how they work together so nicely. Really lovely. And this one is Sunset on the Sound, which is really beautiful, sort of. I like this interpretation of sunset. It's very different to what you would normally think of as a sunset. This is almost like a twilight sort of color scheme, but just before it gets really dark after the sun is set, that in-between phase where everything's very blue. And I love that. That's really pretty as well. So one of these will be for a giveaway and one will be for me. I'm not entirely sure which will be for which. When I do have my new sock collection coming out, I am thinking of starting a knit along to go with it for the patterns. So this might be, one of these might be a prize for that knit along, potentially. We will see. Sorry about that. And she also, finally, one thing, she sent me some leftovers of some handspun that she used to make socks out of. So let me just see what she wrote here. She said, she says, I've also thrown in some handspun sock leftovers. Figured if anyone could find a good use for them, it would be you. It's a 3-ply BFL nylon blend from Gail's Art in the 22B colorway. It might have been called Sherlock. Either way, I spun it and knit a pair of socks, and there's way too much left not to do something with. And I weighed it. There's over 60 grams left, so that's definitely enough to make some socks with. And I think what I might do is contrasting toes and heels and potentially cuffs as well to get these as long as possible. So definitely going to have some handspun socks in my future. And I was recently contacted by, which I actually need to reply to, but so actually I'm not going to mention it now. I'll probably mention it next week, but I have an idea of what this is going to be. I'm looking forward to that too. And so the last package I have to show you is actually in a project bag. This came to me from the lovely Kelsey of A Primrose Young Company. She got in touch with me about a while ago now, not that long ago, just over a week ago, about wanting to send me some yarn to try out. And she's also the one who's offering us the coupon code that I mentioned at the beginning of the episode. So she asked me to pick out a couple of things from her shop for her to send to me to use. And I picked out 2 sock blanks. So that's all I was expecting. I was expecting sock blanks. 2 sock blanks, that's it. What arrived was a massive mailer, and I opened it and this was inside. And I was like, what's she done? What she sent me? So other than the lovely, and it's beautifully padded with sort of like quilt batting almost. It's very sort of padded and nice. So a lovely note explaining everything. She sent me some sweets, M&Ms and Smarties, which I love. And these are what I call Smarties. She sent me a variety of tea, some of these little ring stitch markers, which are always handy to have around. Then came the sock blanks, and these are the ones I was expecting. So both of these are on her zigzag sock base, 463 yards and 100 grams, 75-25 superwash merino nylon. So this one is in the Saviour. I think I've read that right. It is Saviour, yeah. Saviour colourway. And it's just beautiful sort of like spatterings of colour, and I really love this sort of like darkly saturated end. And you can tell instantly by looking at this, the socks are not going to be the same, because one end it looks like this and the other end looks like that. So, and they're going to be very interesting socks, I think. Looking forward to knitting that up. And the yarn is really quite soft as well. The second one is, the colourway is called Into the Woods. And these sock blanks are one of a kind. I haven't opened this one up yet, so this is the first time opening this one. This is what this one looks like. Really fun, bright neon pops amongst the darker green shades. There's a little bit of red in there as well, which is quite fun. So yeah, I'm really loving that. These are really fun. They smell like vinegar, which is fine. I really don't mind that smell. Yeah, that's really, really fun. So there's been a bit of a resurgence in sock blanks recently, and I'm really looking forward to trying one of these out soon. One of these may be on the needles very, very soon. And then Kelsey had to send me something else as well to use and play with, and it is beautiful. I didn't even realise she did skeins of this size in her shop, so I'm really actually glad to be aware of that now. But this is this beautiful purple hank of gorgeousness is the Orion's Belt colourway, which obviously I love purple, and actually Orion's Belt is one of my, I really like that sort of constellation of stars. And this is on her pearl fingering base. It's a 2-ply fingering. It's 80% superwash merino, 20% silk, and it's 600 yards and 150 grams. So it is stunning. It is really soft. It's got a beautiful twist to it. I think something like this would look beautiful in cables or some sort of textured stitch. But it's 600 yards, so this would be the ultimate yarn squish. But this would be beautiful for either a shawl or with something else in a larger garment type thing. It's just like a yarn baby. But anyway, thank you so much, Kelsey. Thank you so much to everyone who sent me things this week, or the things that arrived this week. Yeah, incredible mail week this week. So feeling slightly overwhelmed and a little bit kind of like, I was like, yes, I'm doing really well. I am knitting out my stash this month. I am getting through quite a bit of yarn, and then suddenly all this yarn showed up. I'm like, oh no, I'm taking a step back now. But anyway. I will move on quickly now to knit along news and giveaways. Not much has changed since last week. Like I said, we have the sweater cal going on. We have the expat yarn cal going on. If you're interested in information for those, that's all in the relevant threads in the group, so you can go check those out. Then for the Budding Bluebells shawl cal, which is starting on the 1st of May, pattern will be released on the 30th of April. And will run for 2 months until the end of June. This is going to be a cal co-hosted by myself and Nicole of Hue Loco, who's dyed the yarn for the shawl, and she's got a whole bunch of kits up. I don't know if they're all sold out yet or not, but they were so popular she put up more kits and stuff. So I think she's done over about 100 kits in total now, not just of this colorway but other color options as well. And so yeah, all you have to do to take part is be a member of my group. I'm also, I guess, a member of Nicole's group. You have to knit the shawl. You don't have to use Nicole's yarn to enter. You can use any yarn, but if you're using Nicole's yarn, even better. And there's going to be, the way we're going to do it is because Nicole's got a lot going on at the moment with moving and stuff. So she's going to host the finished objects thread in her group, and I will have the chatter thread in my group, because I'll have more time to keep up with the chatter, answer questions, and as the designer, I guess I can help troubleshoot any issues people are having better than Nicole could in that respect. So chatter in my thread, the thread in my group, and I will also be drawing for winners from the chatter thread. I'll be offering pattern prizes. And then, like I said, Nicole's going to be hosting the finished objects thread. I'll be donating a couple of prizes for the finished objects as well, and Nicole's going to be offering up 2 or 3 prizes as well. And then, in order to enter into the FO thread, you have to follow the rules in Nicole's group that she will list. But one of them will be that you'll have to have a pattern page set up for the project in Ravelry as well, and we can check that. If we draw your name, we can check your project and see if there's a project page for it. If there isn't, then we'll have to draw someone else. So that will be one of the requirements, that you post a project page for the pattern. For the shawl. And ultimately, have fun. And you can enter into as many other knit-alongs as you would like. Okay, I am going to take a quick break here, and I will relocate, and I will be back with you very shortly. Right, okay, I'm back now. Apologies if there's a bit of a echo in here. I'm in the spare room now upstairs with little Ginger, who's our, I think he's just adopted me. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll have probably already seen the posts. I came home from dropping Perry off at the airport and found this little guy waiting for me in our back garden. He basically just followed me into the house, and I couldn't say no to this face. And so I thought I'd come and hang out with him for a little bit, the last part of the podcast. It's more chatty, this section. And there's no reason for me to have to be downstairs to do that. So I hope the lighting's okay. The lighting's actually pretty good in here. I may have to record in here more often. But okay. So while he's sort of calmed down a little bit, he's very attention seeking at the moment. He's got a bit of information in his drawer, so he He likes to be stroked around there quite a bit at the moment. It's a bit soothing for him, I think. But he's eating better now, which is good. I was a bit concerned because he wasn't really eating much yesterday. But I put food out for him this morning and he's just chomped it right down. Right, so he's also quite vocal, so if he meows quite a bit, I'm sorry about that. Right, so moving on to questions and answers. I had a couple of questions this week. First up was from DG White, and that's Denise, and she asks, I'm not sure if you've done it already, but I'd love to see the inside of a mall in Bahrain and also see what a typical Bahrainian meal looks like. Is there a national dish or dessert that is served on special occasions? Also, what are birthday cakes like? When we lived overseas, my birthday cakes were so different than what you buy in the US, both good and bad. Can you describe these to us foodies that watch your podcast, please? Thank you. Well, to be quite honest, Denise, there's not much difference in terms of like cakes and stuff like that. We get a lot of the American brands here as well. There's it's not really a mall, it's like a little shopping centre where my supermarket is near us, and there's a couple of other little shops. There's a Baskin Robbins there, so you get the ice cream cakes like Baskin Robbins. There's bakeries and stuff. It's all very similar to what we would get back home. Sorry, I've got a bit of cat fluff in my eye, I think. Yeah, what's up? It's very similar to what we would get back home. It's not all that different, I don't think. As for national Bahrainian meal, it's very typical of many other Arabic dishes. To be honest, there's not really, not that I've seen, any kind of very specific Bahrainian restaurants or specific meals and stuff. Like I said, it's very typical Middle Eastern type food that you would think of. So nothing particularly different that I could describe for you, I don't think. But we were at the mall last weekend and I did take some footage for you to show you what the inside of the mall looks like. This is one of the bigger malls. There's an IMAX cinema at this one, but it's still pretty quiet. Like, this was a Friday around lunchtime, and you'll see from the footage there's practically no one there. Friday evenings are generally the busiest. Fridays and Thursday nights are generally the busiest evenings for being at the mall. But even so, it's never that busy. Not compared to Dubai. Dubai gets really busy sometimes. But like I said, we tend to avoid going to the mall when it's really busy just because I'm not a big fan of crowds, and neither is Perry. But just settle down a little bit. Yeah, so on that note, I will pop that footage in for you here. Every time I lean forward, he goes and steps all over the keyboard on the computer, so I'm trying to keep him away from that. Then the next question I have is from W Wallet, and I forgot to write down your name. She says, you talk a lot about how many yarns you use for a particular project when you have yarn left over. How do you know how many yards are left? Is there a simple way to do that? I feel like I'm missing something super easy here. Yeah, it is super easy to figure it out. So if you have a ball of the yarn that you get says it has 400 meters and 100 grams. That's fine. And then when you finish your project, if you have 20 grams left over, you can figure that out. So what is 400 meters and 100 grams? Divide 400 by 100, so you get 4 meters per gram. You have 20 grams left over, so you multiply 4 by 20 grams, and you get 80. So you have 80 meters left in 20 grams. Hope that makes sense. So basically, whatever the ball band says is the meterage per whatever weight. So I know some fingering weight yarns come in 115 gram skeins or 150 gram skeins. You just divide the total meters by the weight that it's supposed to be. So you got 600 meters and 150 grams. So you divide 600 by 150. Then you multiply it by how many grams you have left, the result. And that gives you what yardage you have left. Okay, hope that answers your question. Let me know if that makes sense. Okay. And the last question I have is from Bogger. She says, I have a little question, like yourself. And Bogger is the dyer behind the Knitting in France. And she says, I have a little question, like yourself. I'm a cat lover and have 2 cats. I was wondering what breed your cats are. They don't look like European cats, so I was wondering if they were maybe British Shorthair. Well, my cats are Scottish Folds, and Scottish Folds, by their very nature, aren't really they're not necessarily a recognised breed everywhere because of the way they are bred. Their folded ears is actually from a genetic mutation. Yes. Yeah. Settle down, maybe have a nap. Nope. A lot of energetic bundle of fuzz. Yeah, so they're Scottish Folds, and their folded ears are as a result of a genetic mutation. And for that reason, you shouldn't breed a folded-eared cat with another folded-eared cat because it exacerbates and they can develop more problems. So it's not really fair to them if you do that. So yeah, they have very round faces, and that's very typical of folds. They're very sort of very gentle personalities. They're very easygoing. They're great indoor cats. Their personality is such that they are fine with being inside. They're good companion cats. They like being around people, and they're great family pets as well. And all of that, their temperament was really one of the things that sold us, as well as the fact they look adorable, on the idea of getting a fold when we wanted to get cats. And this little guy is not a fold. He is a very typical sort of Arabian style type of cat. I'm not sure what he is, but the sort of, I guess, the typical stray moggy type of cat over here would look like him. They have quite large, big pointed ears. They're quite slim. They're very slender cats, and they have very small paws compared to my boys anyway. And that's just keeps them streamlined, keeps them. I think it uses the least amount of energy, allows them to cope with the heat better and stuff like that. They have much thinner fur, thinner coat as well than our boys do. Our boys have a very thick coat. Yeah, I hope that answered your question as well, Bogger. Sorry if I'm getting very distracted by this little guy. I have a quick question for you guys. I recently decided to enable the ads on my YouTube channel, on my videos, for a couple of reasons. One, because we're posting out prizes and stuff. I'm more than happy to do that, and I love doing that sort of thing. But it does add up after a while, especially with the larger prizes that weigh more. And I don't really feel like, I'm not comfortable with the idea of asking people to donate money to the podcast and stuff. So I kind of feel like this is one way to sort of maybe supplement that a little bit. I don't really know how much revenue will come from YouTube adverts and stuff. It's not something I've really looked into that much, and it's only something I've recently enabled. And the other thing as well is I've been thinking about potentially uploading to iTunes. Let me know if that's something that would be interesting to you. Do you prefer to have podcasts on iTunes, or is YouTube enough for you? I hadn't really considered it before because I know it costs money to upload, and I know loads of people have had problems with uploading to iTunes and file formats and that sort of stuff. So I've never really even looked into it, but it was something that Perry suggested to me the other day as something, because he listens to podcasts on iTunes. And he was like, oh, have you considered uploading to iTunes? Like, it's quite good and this and that. And I was like, I thought about it, but I haven't really looked into it much because I know it costs money and I'm not really sure how many people would even use it. So I'm interested to know, is iTunes something that would be interesting for you? Is that something you'd like to see for the podcast? If so, I will look into that and see if that's feasible or not. And yeah, let me know if the adverts are really annoying or not. I'm not really sure how I feel about that yet. But I figure if it's just a couple of dollars here and there to help supplement the postage fees, and if I want to do iTunes, hopefully pay a little bit towards that maybe. But I kind of feel like I'm putting tutorials out and stuff like that, and I don't know, I kind of feel like it's not that big of an inconvenience. Like, I watch plenty of other YouTube channels and podcasters that have enabled adverts on their videos, and frankly, it doesn't bother me. So, I don't know. I'm interested to know your thoughts, basically, is what I'm getting at. So, let me know what you think. Oh, sorry, that's the little guy bashing his way. So, no shop news this week, and nothing new to add there. But I do have a little bit to talk about Bahrain and Middle East life. Right, so first up, I'll start with, it wasn't something I was planning on talking about this week, but since this little guy came into my life, I kind of feel it's appropriate to mention and talk a bit about the stray cat dog situation in Bahrain and in the Middle East in general. There's a lot of stray cats and dogs in Bahrain, probably more so than I've seen in Dubai. Dubai has quite a big problem with it as well, but I think it's better managed there, or at least there are better things in place to deal with it. They have a TNR scheme in Dubai, which is a trap neuter release. So if you get a stray cat, you trap them, they get neutered, and then they're released again. They get their ears tipped, so the little corner of their ear gets clipped off, and that shows anyone else that comes across this cat that cat's been neutered. So, and it's a stray cat, and they're fine. You can leave them alone, basically. The reason for this is it's quite hard for a truly stray cat, a cat that's been born and raised as a stray on the street, to become a pet. I'm not sure how many people are aware of this, but with cats, when they're born, in the first 8 weeks of their life as kittens, if they are not in human contact, if they are not in contact with people, then because it's very hard to domesticate them after that, and they're essentially feral, which is why kittens need to be handled when they're born. They need to be handled by people, they need to get used to humans in order to become, in order to be able to be good pets, if that makes any sense. Is why sometimes you'll see shelters and places asking for people to come in and play with the kittens because they need to be handled. I don't think he's very happy about being stuck in this room. What that means is a lot of the time if you come across stray cats, it's quite hard to catch them because, well, for one thing, you can't get close to them, they'll run away, and they don't trust people. So with this little guy, literally just walked right up to me, followed me into the house practically, and yeah, he seemed very, very relaxed around me. Not sure where I was now on that one. Yeah, so there's a bit of an issue with stray cats and dogs over here, and it's one reason why I don't want the boys to go outside, because, well, they have no instincts, they have no survival instincts at all, they are ridiculous, but I don't want them to get into a fight with other cats, for one thing, and also it's not something I've really spoken about before because it really upsets me talking about it, but the number of cats that I see that have been run over it's horrifying. I see at least one a week that's been hit by a car and it's just dead on the side of the road, and it's horrible to see. I've seen 3 this week so far, and it's only Wednesday. Okay, hopefully you'll calm down now. So like I was saying, there's a lot of animals that I see that have been run over, hit by cars and stuff, and it's quite distressing to see, and I don't even want to think about the potential of that happening to our boys. And yeah, it's not a good situation over here for animals, to be honest. It's not for stray cats and dogs and stuff. It's not an easy life, it's a hard life, and it's not fun. And like I said, there have been a few other times where I've seen strays, especially kittens, out, and I have to admit, I have tried to sort of like trap a couple to see if I can, like, because they've been quite young enough that I thought that you could still adopt them out and things. Sorry. And stuff like that. So I've tried in the past. It's just really hard to get them to trust you and to come close to you, close enough that you'd be able to catch them or even get them into a cat box. But yeah, with this little guy, like I said, he just sort of followed me into the house. More about him in a bit. But the other thing I wanted to talk about this week was last weekend we went up to Amwaj Islands, which is in the northeastern part of Bahrain. It's actually a bit further north than the airport. And it's a it's a collection of man-made islands which they have built residential and commercial buildings on, and nice little sort of marina area with restaurants and coffee shops and stuff like that. So Perry had a dentist appointment up around there, and we headed up for the morning, and I went with him, and we went and had breakfast and coffee and stuff and around there, and I took some video footage for you guys. There's also a place up there called the Tea Club, which you may or may not remember me talking about before on the podcast last year, but they have, it's massive actually, it's a really big place, and they have a wall of tea and pretty much all the tea you could think of, different blends and stuff like that. Just really interesting place. And we went there and I sort of just popped in quickly to have a little look around. It was dead quiet, there was no one there. Friday morning it's generally pretty quiet everywhere. And yeah, so I took some video, so I will pop that in here for you guys. Hey guys, so today I'm down by the Amwaj Islands, which is in the northeasternmost part of Bahrain. It's a collection of man-made islands which have been built for shops and residential homes and stuff like that. And behind me here you can see the Tea Club. It's a very extravagant looking tea shop and restaurant and cafe cafe place, which I'll take you around in a bit hopefully. We're in the area where there's loads of restaurants and stuff, and yeah, oh sorry, stuff buzzing around my head making me freak out. In case you didn't know, I am like deathly afraid of bees. Not that there are any bees around here to be honest, but anyway, just 1 second, I'm going to flip the camera around. Right, back again. Yes, so yeah, you can see behind me is the Tea Club over there. Like I said, I'll try and take you in there in a bit. And yeah, so we're here. The reason why we're here is Perry has a dentist appointment nearby, so he's off doing that. I'm out enjoying the morning sunshine. It's about 10 AM here, and yeah, nice water view. Sort of very reminiscent to the marina area in Dubai. I think that's kind of what they modelled it around. And yeah, it's a really nice sunny day. It's not too hot yet. It's still, like I said, still only 10 AM. It will get hotter, and it's really nice. Haven't had any breakfast yet, so I think I'm going to find somewhere to eat something, or at least grab a coffee while I wait for Perry. And then yeah, I think I'm going to check out some of the shops and see what's around here. So like I said, these islands, they aren't very old. They are relatively newly built, and they're still building. You probably saw in some of the footage that there's still a lot of construction going on. Turn around, you can see some of the buildings behind me. Yeah, there's still a lot of construction going on. So yeah, and honestly, we did initially consider maybe moving around here, because there's a lot of expatriates who live around here in this area, but quite frankly this is about as far away from the Saudi Causeway as you can get in Bahrain, and it would add at least half an hour to Perry's journey each day, which doesn't make any sense at all. And being where we are meant we could afford to get a house rather than an apartment, so that was also a bonus. Right, I think that's enough little chitter chatter for now, and you can hear all the birds, hopefully. Now I've walked into the other side of the lagoon, so I'm across the way from where I was recording before. Got a camel here, a camel statue painted. You see these popped around Bahrain, pop up every now and again. One thing I did forget to mention is that being Friday morning, it's actually really quiet at the moment, which is really lovely. Never really been here actually when it's been busy, but I imagine it does get quite busy at certain times. I try to find a shady spot to rest after I've walked around in the sun quite a bit. I mean, it's not a long walk and it's not tiring, it's just the heat gets to me quite badly after a while. I've talked before about not being able to regulate my body temperature, and it's no joke. I'm gonna have to find a cold drink, I think, soon. There's a coffee shop there, there's a few I walk past, so might go back to one of those. Right, well, it's almost 2 hours later, it's approaching midday. I've just had breakfast, which you will hopefully have seen. Some clips between this and the last one where I was chatting with you. And yeah, I'm walking back to the tea shop now. Perry's gone to move the car closer because it's hot now. It is definitely getting hotter. I'm walking back towards the tea club, and as you can see, I've got my hair up now because it's just way too hot to have it down around my neck. Yeah, definitely not as nice to be outside in this heat compared to 2 hours ago, which was much more bearable. But as you can see, still nice and sunny, and behind me, all the buildings, still really quiet, not a lot of people around. But I kind of feel that's the way Bahrain is in general, it's just very quiet. And yeah, right, off to the tea shop. Right, so we can review. Last week I had my hair straightened. Sorry. Now he wants to play with the box that I set up the camera on top of. He's had zero interest in this box the whole time it's been in here. Now he wants to play with it. Come here. So I had my hair straightened for the first time in ages last week. And Perry got home and he was just like, I didn't even recognize you. Like, great. My own husband doesn't even know what I look like anymore. The other day, it was quite late in the evening, and I was just sort of knitting away in my craft room and stuff. And suddenly I heard this really loud sort of cracking noise, really quite loud. I was like, what is going on? I go out into the living room and the boys are downstairs and they're both just like staring at the floor. The tiles were coming up in our living room. Like, they were literally coming up, bulging up, and the cracking was the grout breaking. And yeah, so that's not been fun. It's happened before. We've had to get people to come in and temporarily fix it. When we moved in, they told us that all the tiles downstairs were going to have to be replaced at some point because they weren't laid properly, and that's the problem that's been happening. They come up every now and again. So they've come and fixed some of the tiles when they came up last year. And now we've got more, so I don't know what they're going to do. They're going to do a temporary fix, or they're going to do it all again now. I don't know. Okay. So on Monday evening, I had to take Perry to the airport. He was flying to Chicago. Today is his conference, competition, final thing that he's taking part in. And he was running late getting home from work. Actually, he was in a bit of a mad panic. I basically had to pack for him, and in his mad rush, he got to Chicago and then found out he forgot to pack a jacket or anything warm, basically. And it's freezing cold and wet there, and he's not having fun with that. But he should be okay. He's got a suit jacket, so you don't have to sit still, because you run off and then you sit there and you cry and you want attention. And he's off again. So he's not having fun with the wet, rainy weather. But as I got home, this little guy, little Ginger, as I've named him, was waiting for me in the garage, and he just sort of sat there by the barbecue, just staring at me as I parked up the car, waited patiently for me to park the car, put the shutter down, got out, and he sort of came up to me, started meowing, the way that he does, that you've probably heard plenty of already in this video. I'm going to try and cut out as much of it as I can, but it'll be in there nonetheless. And he was waiting for me. I went and got him some food, and he wolfed down a tin of cat food like nobody's business. And then he basically tried to follow me in. So I went and got the cat box, and I put him in the cat box. So like I said, he was waiting for me when I got home, and I brought him up to one of our spare rooms. I'm settled in here, got a few boxes in for him, put a temporary litter tray, some food and stuff, and got him set up for the night. He was okay. And in the morning, I booked him into the vets to come in and got him a bit of a health check, make sure he was okay, make sure he didn't have any fleas or anything. We got him dewormed, no fleas, no mites, thankfully. His ears are clean, his teeth are clean, his jaw is slightly inflamed. The vet said it's slightly irritated. It could be a number of things. It could be a virus, it could be something he ate. The other concern is that he might have FIV, which is basically the cat version of HIV, but the vet said it's still too early to tell, and he's quite young. He's about 4 or 5 months old. The vet estimated. He's a little bit skinny, but not too bad. And he's just needs a bit of love, a bit of food. He'll be fine. He's booked in next week to go in for vaccinations, and then after that, we can start introducing him into the boys. One reason we keep them isolated, and this is something that I've had to do whenever we fostered, is you're supposed to keep them isolated for 7 to 10 days in case they have an illness that hasn't quite reared its head yet. Like if they've caught a bug or something and it hasn't quite developed, is showing symptoms. Keep them isolated, keep them quarantined for a few days to allow for anything that potentially is there to develop in case it could be harmful to other cats. He seems to be okay though. The vet doesn't seem to be too concerned that he might have something. The FIV could potentially be an issue if he does have it, but like I said, it's too early to tell, and I think the vet said when we book him in to get neutered, they'll do the test then, because he'll be old enough at that point for that to show up. I just went and brought a cat tree in for him because I thought you might want to look out the windows. But I just think he doesn't like being stuck in this room. I'm afraid he's going to have to get used to that. Anyway, that's pretty much about it really. I don't think I can fit anything else in. He's too distracting right now, and I'm sorry this last segment was probably terrible. Sorry about all of that. I will be back with you all next week. If you've stuck through all of this, thank you so much for sticking with me. If you haven't, I totally don't blame you. And if you haven't, well, you won't see this. But thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next week. Hopefully, I may or may not record from in here again with him if he's going to be like that. But thanks for tuning in. Until next time, happy knitting. Bye.